What you are looking at right now is the largest explosion created by humans in history. The fireball you are looking at is 8 kilometers wide. Now, to get a perspective of that, imagine a ball of fire and plasma so hot that anything inside of it is vaporized instantly, and so large its diameter goes from the One World Trade Center in New York to Central Park. Then add a mile to that. The explosion was so powerful its shockwave circled the planet 3 times. But to explain why this weapon was made, we'll have to go back in time. Too far. Okay, so during the Cold War, there was a need, or want, as I should say, for very large yield nuclear weapons. This was because ballistic missiles in the 1950s were about as accurate as a baseball pitcher, with a blindfold on. For example, the SM-65 Atlas missile had an accuracy of 2 miles. And while yes, that is impressive, 2 miles can be the difference between hitting key infrastructure and leaving it standing. So, how do you fix this? You could make the missile more accurate, or you could put a much larger weapon on it, so even if it misses the target by a couple miles, you're still making substantial damage to your target. This was the philosophy behind the Tzar Bomba. A 2-mile deviation from your course doesn't really matter if you destroy everything in a 5-mile radius. There's also the fact that larger nuclear weapons are good for bombers because of increased blast radius, but basically the same concept is at play. The second, and probably main reason this bomb was created, is because it was good for propaganda. Having the bragging rights to say that you have the most powerful nuclear device in human history and can destroy your enemy's city in one foul swoop is an impressive and terrifying claim. So the bomb itself was completed in 1961. The bomb was originally set to be 100 megatons, or equal to 100 million tons of TNT, but this was changed to 50 megatons after concerns about the fallout being too large. Once completed, the bomb was moved by train to an airfield near the test site. The plane it was loaded onto, the Tupolev Tu-95, which had to have its fuel tanks and its fuselage removed along with its bomb bay doors to accommodate the weight of the 25-ton bomb. And it also had to be painted a special reflective coating to stop it from absorbing too much energy from the blast. The plane was given a 50% chance of surviving, a literal coin flip. Now I would like to note that before the test, Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev, this guy, made a speech about the test where he stated they were going to test the 50 megaton bomb. This went about as well as you would expect.
While to show his muscle, announces Russia plans to test a 50 megaton atomic weapon, biggest in history. In Washington, the Voice of America broadcasts a call by the White House for Khrushchev to reconsider the giant blast. While world opinion is rallied against the Soviets' obvious move to frighten peoples and governments, Secretary of State Dean Rusk assesses Khrushchev's speech. He says the easing of the Berlin deadline may serve to reduce tension somewhat, but otherwise Russia's attitude shows little if any change. About the monster bomb, he says,
just why the Soviet Union would wish to detonate a 50 megaton explosion is something about which we can all speculate. But if they have in mind that it will be a demonstration, we hope that they will think very hard about all that it will demonstrate and not just the particular point that they might wish to establish. We hope very much that we can move toward a test ban treaty just as promptly as possible.
So, to put it lightly, the international reaction to the announcement was less than favorable. Very few nations thought that this was a good idea. The UN passed an emergency resolution pleading with the USSR not to do it, but none of that was going to stop the Soviets from doing the test at this point. So on October 30th, 1961, the bomber lifted off with the bomb literally strapped to the bottom of the bomber because it was so big that they could not put it in the bomb bay. Then, once flying over the target drop zone, the bomb was dropped, and its parachute deployed. The parachute was to give the bomber more time to escape. The parachute was so large, in fact, it weighed 800 kilograms. Then, after parachuting down for 188 seconds, on October 30th, 1961, at exactly 11:32 a.m., the bomb was detonated. The bomb detonated 4,000 meters or 1,200 feet above the Siberian wilderness. The blast was so powerful the shock wave kept the fireball from touching the ground. The flash was visible for over 1,000 kilometers away. One Soviet cameraman said, "The clouds beneath the aircraft and in the distance were lit up by the powerful flash. A sea of light spread under the hatch and even the clouds began to glow and become transparent. At that moment, our aircraft emerged between two cloud layers, and down below the gap, a huge bright orange ball was emerging. The ball was powerful and arrogant, like Jupiter. Slowly and silently it crept upwards. Having broken through the thick layer of clouds, it kept growing. It seemed to suck the whole earth into it. The spectacle was fantastic, unreal, supernatural." All buildings in a 55-kilometer radius were destroyed. Third-degree burns were reported from over 100 kilometers away. The bomb had a yield of 58 megatons, 8 more than expected. The cloud grew to a maximum of 67 kilometers high, which was more than 3/4 of the way to space. The mushroom cloud grew to a maximum of 59 miles wide, which means if you were looking at it from 50 kilometers in the atmosphere, this is what you would see. Immediately after the test, several U.S. senators condemned the test. It was called a terror bomb and used as an example of Khrushchev's terroristic policies. It also played a role in increasing the demand for an atmospheric test ban treaty because of fallout issues with such a weapon, which, to be honest, were extremely overhyped by some in the U.S. JFK released a press release denouncing the Soviet test and stated that there was no reasons for making weapons so big, and that the U.S. had pursued a similar weapon themselves a few years before, but had decided not to do it. This was referring to a planned 60-megaton bomb that President Eisenhower decided to reject. After the test, JFK told generals not to do drop tests of 50-megaton bomb casings, not the bombs themselves, the casings, because it would look like the U.S. would be trying to make a bomb that large. So, to put it simply, the nuclear test of the 58-megaton Tzar Bomba was widely condemned by the international community, and eventually led to the signing of the Partial Nuclear Test Ban Treaty in 1963. And it still, to this day, remains the most powerful nuclear bomb ever tested.